and welcome back, everyone. I wanted to talk about planners and journals and pens and maybe a book or two at the end, just to catch you up on some of those paper-related things that I have been up to lately. So to start with, I have still been journaling, although it definitely waned big time these past 2 years, really. It just has been kind of not as consistent and stable, but it's coming back into my life in a bigger capacity. One thing that didn't go away was journaling via typewriter. So I have my beautiful Adler J4 sitting right there and waiting for me when I'm inspired. I just pull out a sheet of paper and type away. I started a new journal more recently. This is in a traveler's notebook Baumkuchen collaborative cover. That was a mouthful. This one I've had for a couple of years. I even stamped the date, but for the life of me, I can't read it. I think it says April 18th, 2021. Anyways, this is what it looks like on the outside. And then on the inside are these pockets. This is what you normally wouldn't see in a traveler's notebook. And that's been added by Baumkuchen. The insert that I'm using is my favorite insert. This is the Galen Leather Everyday book. I love that it has this wonderful blotting paper. This is like a thick but supple leather blotter that is very absorbent, and you can see all those little black spots is from it doing its job. So if you don't know, basically when you're writing with a fountain pen or any pen that produces a lot of ink on the paper, it can take some time to dry. And if you need to turn the page, and rather than wait for the ink to dry, you just slip in your blotter, turn the page, and the blotter absorbs the ink rather than the other page. It also comes with a bunch of guides. I'm using the 5mm grid, but there is 2 different lined guides as well, and then a 10mm graph. So it's nice and customizable because the pages are all blank. It is Tomoe River paper. Now this is all old stock that I've had for a long time. And it comes in a set of 3 when you purchase them. So I don't know if I think this is the old Tomoe River paper. I don't think I've actually experienced the new one. It's hand stitched rather than stapled. It's really thick. It actually comes with a lot of paper, 128 pages, which is really great. I love how nicely it ghosts. It's just like you have this like crinkly page, and then you get these little hints of your other writings on prior pages as you work through it. And I just think that's just such a lovely look. I'm trying not to focus on it because that is my private journal, and I don't actually want to share that with the world, but it's really wonderful. Now, in the back, however, I can show you a page, and that is just some little information to show what my journal is, but also the pen. So the pen that I'm currently writing with and the ink. So I'm using Parker Quink Black and writing with Sheaffer Oversized Balance from the 1920s. It is my favorite pen of the vintage collection, and I love it so much. It's just always so consistent and reliable and a pleasure to write with and beautiful to look at and comfortable to hold. I'm a big fan of this. I've talked a lot about this pens in past pen videos, so I don't need to belabor it. I'm also carrying a Pineider Traveling Inkwell, which is currently full of Parker Quink Black. And the great thing about this inkwell is that it has a little rubber gasket. It's got a cork here, so if you need to fill up your fountain pen, you uncap the cork, you stick your pen into this rubber gasket, which kind of seals it off, and then you're able to flip it over with the nib submerged in the ink, and then you do whatever filling whatever filling mechanism is available to you. That was a weird, complicated way of saying that. The pouch that I'm carrying it in is an old Hurlstone pouch that I've had for, ever, like 2018 maybe. It is absolutely, by far, my most used and most beloved pen pouch. It's supposed to be for 2 pens. I've been able to carry 4 pens, but right now I'm just doing 1 pen and then the inkwell. It's really soft velvet, and it has a really great little pocket in the back that usually I carry a little cleaning cloth, because even though that traveling inkwell prevents any ink from spilling anywhere, you still get a little ink on your grip or your nib. So I like to be able to wipe it off. Moving on, another form of journaling that I have been on and off with is my Midori 5-year journal. And this one I started in 2021, and next year will be my last year with it. So my approach for this journal has been very relaxed. I don't want to put pressure on myself, because if I do, then I will be a completionist. And if I can't complete and fill in every single page for every single year, I'll get really discouraged and I will just abandon it completely. So I let it come and go in my life and I don't worry about it. So there are pages, for example, this is 4 years of entries, but I also have pages where I've skipped a year or 2, actually, in this case. Sometimes I've even, skipped 3 years and just wrote the 1 entry. I'm not worried about it. I still have a lot of fun with this journal, and I feel like it's getting proper use regardless. And we'll definitely be continuing, I think. Well, I shouldn't say definitely, but most likely I'll be continuing with the 5-year journal when this one is done next year. I also have my Hobonichi weeks lined up for 2025. Nothing exciting. I feel like my planning life is a little bit boring because I simply just use it to keep track of all the things that I need to keep track of. And it also is my scrap paper. I have found that if I keep my Hobonichi weeks simple, and I've been using these planners since I think 2018 or 2019, then I don't get tired of it. So if I have something really patterned and maybe kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, or something that feels a little bit more impulsive, I don't know how to explain it, I tend to get tired of looking at it. And so I've discovered that if I just keep it really simple and nondescript, then it works for the whole year. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyways, this is my simple pistachio colored cloth fabric 2025 Hobonichi weeks. I have been using the Eternal Leather Goods cover for a couple of years now, I think. Gosh, it's so easy to lose track of the day. I can't even tell you what I did yesterday, to be honest. I was thinking about it. I was like, wait, could I? What did I do yesterday? Anyways, this is how it's looking. It's beautiful. It's such a great cover. It's patinaed really nicely. As you can see, it's very shiny. I take this to work primarily, and sometimes I take it out and about with me, but definitely always have it when I go to work, and have it at our kitchen table if I leave it behind. I tend to carry a lot of sticky notes on the inside, some extra sticky notes and reminders. I really just use it, like I said, to plan, to write out the things, the appointments, or the lessons that I'm teaching, or the lessons that I'm giving, or the lessons that I'm taking. And travel days for Brian. This is really boring. I don't need to get into it. So my point is I don't do a lot of exciting decorating or drawing or anything beautiful. I love the idea of it, but it's just not something I want to give any time to. The Hobonichi has the weeks part, which I use kind of sporadically. Sometimes I use as to-do lists. Sometimes I use them to expand a little bit on the lessons that I'm giving. Sometimes I just use it as scrap paper. So if I skip any weeks, I go back and use that as scrap paper whenever I need it, which is really nice. I actually like having a bunch of scrap paper always on hand. And some of them are even like little helping kids with math and demonstrating for them. Sorry, it's not focusing. This is like a really sloppy page demonstrating for them what that math looks like and kind of like walking them through the steps. So that is my Hobonichi Weeks. I know that there was a Denali version cover, and trust me, I was tempted because that is kind of the identity that I've taken on because of that mountain. It has a very special place in my life, and for that reason I wanted to have it, but honestly that blue is just too cold for me. I tend to appreciate warmer colors, so having to open this up to something so cold and stark every day, I was like, I think I'm gonna get sick of that real quick. So I just stuck with something plain. I wish it was in sepia. If it was sepia toned, I would have gotten that in a heartbeat, I think. So last but not least, I have read 48 books this year, which is really amazing. I tend to average about 20 books a year. I set a goal for myself at the beginning of this year to read 24 books for 2024, and just kind of rediscovered just how much I love books. Not that I had forgotten, because I do still read really consistently, but just not, I was just like consuming books like food or water or whatever, gasoline. I don't know. I just was like, feed me more books. I'm having so much fun. My favorite book of the year, though, by a long shot, is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. Oh, I am so in love with this book. It is just beautifully written, very to the point and matter of fact, a story of a young woman, a young girl growing up to become a woman in Brooklyn, New York during the early 1900s, and just kind of following her life and the lives around her and the cultures and just all sorts of social things and fascinating history and language. And I just really like how it's been, I really like how it's presented. It's just a beautifully written story and so impactful. It's a book that I cannot wait, actually, to read again, which is really rare. It's really rare for me to want to reread books. I've read a couple of Jane Austen's multiple times. I've read Frankenstein and Dracula and The Time Machine a couple of times. But for the most part, I'm like a one and done person. I guess I've read a lot of Agatha Christie repeatedly. But yeah, for the most part, I don't reread a book. So when I look forward to rereading it someday in the future, then I know it's going to be a favorite book of mine. And I will say, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn has just made it to the favorites list. So that is it. That is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Happy writing, happy reading, happy planning. Just have a wonderful day. And thank you all so much for being here. Bye.